long as behind all these lights and cameras there are human beings, everything is okay. The most difficult thing is to proceed. Those who know how to create much needed beginnings for themselves and for others become legends in their own right. And yet the most difficult thing is to proceed beyond beginnings. Only then one sees the flaws, the constraints, the endless work on little detail needed to maintain the vision. In fact, the raison d'être of most beginnings is to be able to proceed. It doesn't always succeed, sometimes it can't, but when it does, some of the deepest moments of life are those who have patiently built within our inner personality a higher trust in existence, not only to begin anew, but to proceed anew. Another step within the earth, another deed of faith in the inexplicable experience called life. There's a modern legend here in Israel from the shores of the Sea of the Galilee about the pioneers of Kibbutz Dgania in the 1910s. The story of those new volunteers who came in every day to join the endeavor of establishing a new kibbutz, the first kibbutz in Eretz Israel. Only one day passed with its difficult physical labor, and then one night, and with dawn, many of those who had just arrived slipped away to the nearest road, hoping to find the first hitchhike back to Tel Aviv. But one man, one of the eldest pioneers there, who was probably only 30 years old, would then come up riding his horse after them. He would stand there at the dusk of dawn in the middle of this nowhere, only to say these words: "It has long been our tradition to begin. We Jews had no other choice. We wandered from one place to the other and became experts in beginnings. Many found homes, many dreamed of the land of Eretz Israel. But now that we are here, now that we have the chance to build not only a beginning, but a life fit to proceed, now you leave? Your place is here in this long-dreamed now, another day of mud, another step." Thus he said, and they would look at that aged 30-year-old pioneer, hold on to his extended arm, mount on the horse, and ride back to Dgania to proceed. Choosing to proceed despite the constant fears and disappointments that human history involves is one of the great miracles of life. Proceeding doesn't mean leaving things as they are, but it means having a complete sense of obligation to a higher mission, a greater than a beginning, an inspiration revealing a new sight, the sight of a destiny. I want to ask tonight, what is our destiny as Jews? Do we still have a destiny? Can we define it to ourselves? Has the establishing of the State of Israel achieved our destiny? And if so, what are we to do now? Or has it distanced us from our destiny? These are some of the questions that trouble our generation here in Eretz Israel greatly. They trouble me, they trouble our Tzion community, living in Jerusalem, a city saturated with dreams and constantly shaken by reality. We ask ourselves whether we could still proceed, and if so, where to? Life without a destiny is like a language without a future tense. It goes nowhere, it inspires nothing, it lacks vision, and the most it can do is to give some temporary comfort. Destiny needs the fabric of reality as matter, but with reality alone, it cages every possibility and directs its participants only to different modes of survival. What needs to constantly, stubbornly shape the matter is the human ability to dream and imagine a life without survival. Heschel, in a short 15-page booklet published in 1949, called it Pikuach Neshama, describing Judaism as a spiritual school training our souls never to lose sight of the world as we imagine it. One of the outcomes of the catastrophe of the Holocaust is that we have become so immersed in the question of our physical existence that we have forgotten who we are and what we were to carry. We speak of numbers. Sociologists are modern priests who supply the facts which manage our national agenda to survive. Being Jewish today is all about staying a Jewish body, bringing about new Jewish beings, and then protecting them. The trauma within our soul is so deep that we have silenced our imagination and our ancient sense of destiny. Many Jews in Israel prefer believing that Jewish life is a reality taken from the past and not a prophetic scene calling upon us from the future. We are stuck in a constant conversation about Jewish numbers, stuck in a conversation about survival, stuck in a conversation about the fear to proceed. The Jewish people is sick, and here are the maladies of our time. We lack imagination, we lack a vision for the many, we lack faith. There is no destiny without them. There is a life and a present of survival for better and for worse, but nothing beyond that. And one of the deepest pains is to see this mode of survival, so human and yet so far from the heritage of faith from which we have derived, seeping into our perception of the miracle called the State of Israel. What should have been the habitat to cure a battered body and wake the souls hiding between the ashes of destruction has become a major player in the strengthening of the mode of survival. I don't blame us. We are wounded people and have all reasons to be inherently cautious, and yet I do blame us. With our very own hands, we have become partners in damaging the miraculous cure that too many have sacrificed to create. The State of Israel, which was dreamed by our prophets as a possible cure not only for Jewish wounds, but for the wounds of human existence, is on the verge of becoming a tragedy because it will not endure our own maladies, the Jewish maladies. So it seems to me that the greatest challenge of Israeli society today is to do pikuach neshama before it's too late, to make way for the metaphysical in a completely physical paradigm, to reread Echad Ha'am's warning from 1891 that saving the Jewish body in Eretz Israel without addressing the Jewish soul, without revitalizing it with a sight of purpose, will create the most tragic of ghettos in history. Millions of Jews will be trapped with each other, without direction, without purpose, besides the one shared fear of death. For Israeli society, it is now either pikuach neshama or finding ourselves in a world of avi avot hatum'ah, a world living under the dark shade of the dead with an extinguished neshama, a world of tme'ei metim. Israeli society is too scared to imagine, too proud to pray, too lonely to think of the many, too battered to hold on to our confidence in the human beings and our faith in God. Emunah, faith, is a spiritual training system, training generations of human beings to rebel against the natural notion of survival and to deliberately search for a set of values that make us worthy of survival. Emunah is a continent of imagination and trust, claiming that underneath reality there is a world of kitov, awaiting to be revealed in each and every creature and nation. Emunah is the refusal to accept the world as it is and the refusal to give up on the world. Emunah is the endless work of a spiritual avant-garde people exercising olam haba right here and now. Our ancestors handed to us a twofold system to exercise emunah. Torah, which is responsible for shaping the language which characterizes reality, finding new intellectual and moral possibilities and concepts from within the matter of reality. And the second is the experience of tefillah, prayer, which is responsible for the deconstruction of everything we think we know about the world, making way within the soul to humility, to unexpected possibilities that need at least a pinch of holy naivete. The Jewish spiritual system in Israel needs a body that knows how to handle reality and a soul who knows how to handle dreams. The body must be sober enough to survive. The soul must be naive enough to dream. Pikuach neshama starts with teachers of faith everywhere. No politician can fix it, no system, but thousands of teachers who awaken the soul of a people. In 1910 in Prague, Martin Buber claimed that there are three ideas which are the anchors of Jewish faith: oneness, action, and future. Oneness. Jewish tradition is wired to always place us within at least two languages, two stories of creation, two beginnings of the year, written Torah, oral Torah, Jewish center in Israel, another in Babylon or America. Jewish life starts with the one private human being, but never stops there. It's all about relationships between the two and then the many, starting with a family, moving to community, going to nation, and then the whole human project. Faith in the infinite cannot be seriously translated to concepts of seclusion and singularity as they are now. It strives much higher and cannot but speak of a future that brings the many, all many, together. A future in which all forms of life give each other permission to exist, each vouching for the existence of the other. Jewish tradition is a training program slowly broadening the horizons of our human consciousness so that it could hold within it more and more voices of the infinite. Therefore, our challenge is to create a language of yachad, bringing Sfaradi, Charedim, Chilonim, Ethiopiim, Rusim, Reformim as equal partners to this table of the discussion, leaving the rhetorics of separation and denomination behind us for the sake of a simple definition that is elastic and kind and wide enough for the crazy project called Kibbutz Galuyot. No narrow language can hold such a project, and the idea of oneness is becoming pale and irrelevant as long as we don't understand that what Eliezer ben Yehuda did for the Hebrew now needs a spiritual layer, which we are all responsible for, a language of yachad, of Ahavat Israel, oneness. Action. Our national recovery depends upon what we make of the state of Israel, just as Jabotinsky said, food, housing, clothing, education, and health for all Israelis, Jews and non-Jews alike. In the political atmosphere where all sects are urged by politicians to attack each other, it's not likely to happen. Therefore, we will need to create a network of communities, manifesting the language of yachad in action, in norms, everyday norms, responding actively to racism, to poverty. These communities will be many examples of what could happen here, and the more such communities we have, the more inspired people would be, and the more encouraged they'll be to take a stand when the time comes. But the internal sphere is not enough. We who have been the other of humanity, who have been trained to feel a pain too great, and have been exposed to the pains of others, we who watched nations as they rise and fall, wallowing in their own power, unable to restrain it, why are we so surprised still by the Palestinian challenge that we're now facing? It's our destiny. It has always been our destiny to imagine a world beyond anything we know, to care for something beyond ourselves. We Jews have not come back for the sake of Jews only, nor have we come back to dismantle ourselves from our national identity. We have come back to our homeland with a unique bar of moral excellence to establish a home for ourselves and another home for our neighbors. And then, future. Not only the Jews are sick, humanity is sick. Human beings have slowly lost faith in themselves during the course of the 20th century, and it has expedited the mode of survival amongst millions of people in the Western world. Millions dream of saving their physical existence with disproportional wealth. Millions dream of saving their souls by closing themselves in a room with their personal pain away from the pains of the crowd. Million dreams of saving their spirit by finding spiritual schools of solitude and serenity. We, who symbolize through our own suffering some of the reasons for which humanity lost trust in itself, we need to rehabilitate our own trust in humanity and humanity's trust in itself. Pikuach neshama, faith, oneness, action, future. The state of Israel is a moment of test for Jews and Judaism. It can be a source of unprecedented inspiration for many, or it can slowly fall apart and break our hearts. Will Judaism survive the gathering of the Jews into the state of Israel? Will we survive redemption? We will not survive this without the sight of a destiny, a pretentious vision which includes the power of spiritual imagination and the vastness of a vision for all nations and all faiths. A Jewish national enterprise with no destiny will not endure, and our children, wherever they are, will turn their backs to us. The pain they will carry, the disappointment and the shame of what we had not realized will be too deep to overcome. Some Jews will find ways to carry the failure, but it will paralyze them from trying again. Many generations will pass until they overcome our defeat and their anxiety to try until they come back to the land of Israel to proceed. It is done. We have gone through a long history with its difficult labor and with nights and darkness which came upon us. Many of us who arrived until here stand on the crossroad wishing that some ride will take us elsewhere to a normal life, a normal history. But there's a God standing with us here at the dusk of dawn, on the threshold of this moment in history, only to say this to us. It has long been our tradition to begin. Now that we are here in Eretz Israel, in Zion, in Yerushalayim, now that we have the chance to build a life fit to proceed, now we leave. We were trained for this moment. Our place is in this moment. Every teacher, every rabbi, every community of all sorts. Another day, another step. Thus God says and stretches his inspiration onto us so that we can proceed. Will our souls awaken? Will we stand up to our destiny?